to get it out of the ground, figured that they would sail it down the Lehigh River on rafts. Rafts can carry about 10 tons of coal. Lehigh flows into the Delaware River down in Easton. Of course, the Delaware goes to Philly. That was the plan, but the reality is that the Lehigh is a shallow, dangerous, rocky river, and for every 2 rafts loaded with coal that they put on it, they were lucky if 1 raft made it down to Philadelphia. They crashed on the rocks, were flipped by the current, or ran aground. And even if you did make it to Philly, rivers are one way. Your raft would get down to Philadelphia, you'd sell your coal, and then you'd have to take your raft apart, sell the timber, and the crew would have to walk back to the Poconos carrying the iron fittings that held it together. Not very efficient. And in fact, a lot of people went bankrupt trying to bring coal down to Philly. For the most part, it sat up there unused until after the War of 1812. In 1812, Great Britain wanted their colonies and their colonists back, and to get them, they blockaded the Atlantic seaboard of the United States. That meant that no coal was coming in from Great Britain. That meant that no coal was coming up the coast from Virginia, and it meant that the iron industry had to use charcoal as a fuel to make iron. You need a lot of iron to fight the biggest military power on Earth. To make charcoal, you bake the moisture out of trees, hardwood trees, and it takes 2 acres of hardwood trees to make enough charcoal to smelt 1 ton of iron, which was no iron at all. By 1814, there weren't any trees left between Philadelphia and the Blue Mountains. They'd all been cut down, and we were in danger of losing our independence. Luckily, Napoleon caused trouble in Europe. The British had to go back in 1814 to fight him, and so the war was called off. That's when the 2 heroes of our story show up, Josiah White and his business partner Erskine Hazard. They knew that anthracite was going to be the fuel of the future. It was better than bituminous coal and charcoal. It wasn't going to be influenced by the whims of a foreign power because it was located in the interior, and you didn't have to wait 100 years for it to grow to maturity like a tree. They had a small iron furnace in Philadelphia where they used charcoal to turn iron into wire and rope. So they got a load of anthracite, brought it to their furnace, and tried to get it to burn. The problem with anthracite is that it's very hard to ignite, very hard to get burning hot enough to remove the iron from the ore that it's trapped inside. Through trial and error and basic dumb luck, they figured out a very primitive process. They started making iron, and Mr. White designed a stove for Philadelphia that could handle the heat of anthracite coal. But they knew that the real money was in the coal business. In the 18-teens, they went to the Poconos and bought all the bankrupt coal fields. They started to sail their coal down the Lehigh River, but Mr. White invented a low dam that controlled the flow of the Lehigh River. It allowed them now to get 4 out of 5 rafts down to Philly, but even with that amount, they weren't meeting the demand for anthracite. What they needed was a canal where you could build big boats that could carry 100 tons, not the 10 tons that a raft carried, and a canal that had 2-way traffic. When they heard in 1822 that the Commonwealth was going to dig the Delaware Canal from Bristol, Pennsylvania, right above Philly, all the way up to Easton, they asked the Commonwealth to continue the canal up the Lehigh to the coal fields. And of course, the Commonwealth said no. They'd been going bankrupt digging canals. They didn't want to dig anymore, so they made a deal with White and Hazard. It's 1822, they said, and the Delaware Canal should reach Easton